What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. I hope you're having an awesome day. Today, we'll be taking a look at everything there is to know and love about the Alfa Romeo Giulia and Stelvio from a conceptual standpoint, including the platform these vehicles are built on, some of the critical nuances that set them apart from their rivals, and why they stand out in a sea of luxury sports sedans and SUVs. But before we jump into the video, if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. On this channel, we'll be focusing on video content related to Alfa Romeos, modifications, detailing, DIY projects, and more. We have a lot of great content planned and upcoming, and you don't want to miss out. Also, if you like the video, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with a friend. I would greatly appreciate it. So with that being said, stick around, settle in, and enjoy. First, we'll start with the transmission, the ZF 8HP, which is a torque-converted 8-speed automatic transmission. This transmission was created under the Chrysler Group umbrella, and it was first debuted in 2008 in the BMW 7 Series 760 Li, which at the time was fitted with a V12 engine. Since that debut, it has seen numerous updates, variations, and generation refreshes, and is boasted as being the gold standard in torque-converted automatic transmissions, praised for its reliability and efficiency, having shift times within 200 milliseconds. For comparison, it takes the average person 400 milliseconds to blink. That's pretty damn quick if you ask me. Pairing this into the Giulia and Stelvio platforms was a no-brainer, and is a strong contributing factor to the overall experience Alfa Romeo aimed to offer. There are two iterations of the ZF 8HP available in the Giulia and Stelvio models, and each one tuned specifically for their applications. Starting with the ZF 8HP 50, which is standard in all Giulia Stelvio trim levels below the quadrifoglio. Rated for 500 Newton meters of torque or 370 pound-feet, the 8HP 50 is shared with numerous BMW models from the 1 Series up to the 7 Series. It is also found within the Dodge Charger and Dodge Durango V6 models, Jeep Wranglers, and the Jeep Gladiator. Essentially the same transmission also in the 5th generation Toyota Supra, being rated for the same power, except the gearing for the first, second, and third gears are just slightly different. The second iteration being the ZF 8HP 75, which comes in the Giulia Stelvio quadrifoglio trims, rated for 750 Newton meters of torque, or 550 pound-feet. The 8HP 75 is shared with the Aston Martin DB11, Aston Martin V8 Vantage, Alpina B5, Ram 1500, and Ram 2500, just to name a few. Essentially, this version of the 8HP was designed to handle high torque output platforms without issue. Also, we can't forget the manual transmission. The quadrifoglio was originally debuted with a 6-speed manual transmission, which is also a ZF variant, and is also the transmission that was used to set the Nürburgring lap record for the fastest 4-door sedan to grace its track at 7 minutes 39 seconds. Granted, the automatic transmission managed to shave 7 seconds off this time, setting the new record at 7 minutes 32 seconds. The manual gearbox was unfortunately never made available to North America, simply due to the decline in purchases of manual transmissions in general. Next, let's talk about the engine. As most people know, the incredible twin-turbo V6 engine offered in the quadrifoglio version of the Giulia and Stelvio is derived from the Ferrari F154 engine, which was first seen in the Ferrari California T back in 2014, but it is most akin to the version used in the Ferrari 488 GTB with similar bore and stroke, less 2 cylinders. An all-aluminum 2.9-liter twin-turbo V6 that produces 505 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque, enough power to rocket you 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds on its rear-wheel drive platform. However, the GME T4 engine used for all Giulia and Stelvio trim levels below the quadrifoglio, minus the diesel, was a new design that was first introduced in the 2016 launch of the Giulia. This is a 4-cylinder turbo engine making a cool 280 horsepower and 306 pound-feet of torque from the factory, but can easily output 320 horsepower and over 360 pound-feet of torque with a simple tune, and even more with the right modifications. This little engine that could hits high in its class and doesn't get enough credit if you ask me. It was a perfect offering for the lower level trims from Alfa Romeo, and it's just enough to have fun with and just enough to get in trouble with as well, especially when paired with the ZF transmission. With Alfa Romeo belonging under the FCA umbrella, this engine can also be found in the Jeep Wrangler and Cherokee models 2018 and later. A hybrid version of the GME T4, which is also slightly more powerful due to an added electric supercharger, can be found in the Maserati Ghibli, Levante, and Grecale since 2021, and will be available as an option in the new Alfa Romeo Tonale and Dodge Hornet. Unfortunately, we will not have the GME T4 version of the Tonale made available here in the States. The turbocharged 4-banger many of us have grown to love will only be available via the Dodge Hornet in the US, or if you're in Canada, you can have it spec'd into the Tonale as well. Last, but certainly not least, let's talk about the 952 platform, Project Giorgio. If you ask any Alfa Romeo Giulia or Stelvio owner what it is that they love about their cars, guaranteed one of the top things they mention will be how incredibly well the vehicles handle, how confidence-inspiring they are in the curves, and how it's almost effortless to translate what direction you want to go with a simple turn of the steering wheel. This translation is accomplished by a few things, but let's start with the Giulia's class-leading 11.8 to 1 fixed steering ratio, 12 to 1 for the Stelvio. This means that every 1 degree turn of your wheels equates to 11.8 degrees of turn on your steering wheel, which is insanely tight. For reference, most every other high-end sports sedan or coupe from say BMW, Audi, or Mercedes all opt for ratios closer to 14 to 1 and are usually variable ratios instead of fixed. For comparison, 16 to 1 is considered average. Alfa opted for a steering ratio usually reserved for supercars like Ferraris, which makes sense considering that the development of the new Giulia was overseen and heavily influenced by Philipp Krief, who was a senior engineer at Ferrari when he received a call in April 2013 by the CEO of Fiat at the time, Sergio Marchionne, who said, "You have to come and do the new Alfa." When Krief was interviewed back in 2015 by Car Magazine, he hinted that there is a bit of Maranello magic in the new Giulia's chassis dynamics. Krief stated, "I worked on the 458, the Speciale especially. Ferrari had a big advantage of having rear-wheel drive, so it's exactly the same kind of stuff we wanted to put on the Giulia. This kind of feeling. It has to be precise, very quick, very agile, very stable." So, not only was the QV's engine inspired from Ferrari, they wanted it to drive and feel like one too. And if you've ever had the chance to really drive a Giulia, you would know that Krief and his team pretty much nailed it. But to achieve this, a lot of focus went into the chassis and suspension design. With a double wishbone front suspension made of all aluminum, they created a specific front suspension geometry, which Krief stated it allowed them to have a perfect feeling because at any time, it gives the exact position of the wheel and what is happening inside the contact patch of the tire to the driver. The rear suspension is an Alfa patented multi-link solution with 4.5 links, It was designed to ensure extremely precise control of the characteristic wheel angles that translate into a road behavior at the top of its category. A design with amazing handling and outstanding comfort in mind. This setup allows the system to be very rigid on corners, but also very flexible when needed. Additionally, the platform development followed a few core guidelines: 50-50 weight distribution, rear-wheel drive, and maximum lightness. Even if you opt for the Q4 all-wheel drive system, it was designed to have a biased, fixed torque distribution value with 70% of the power going to the rear and 30% to the front under normal conditions. The active torque vectoring rear axle allows the rear differential to vary the power to each wheel, improving traction and performance, and also guarantees fast steering reaction, excellent tire stability, even at high speeds and in extreme weather conditions. Lastly, every Giulia and Stelvio model is outfitted with a carbon fiber drive shaft to transmit power to the rear wheels. With carbon fiber being lighter and stronger than steel, this helped Alfa achieve near perfect 50-50 weight balance, while also improving acceleration and fuel economy. With carbon fiber being half the spun weight of steel, this allows for less inertia when slowing down and less resistance when accelerating, allowing more of the power at the crank to be converted to the wheels. In summation, I'd like to quote Orazio Sata Poliga, who was the head designer for Alfa Romeo. Before leaving his role in 1974, he stated, "Alfa Romeo is not just an automobile factory. It's a kind of illness, a zeal for a means of transport. It's a way of life, a unique view on how to design a motor vehicle. It's all about feelings, passion, anything that has more to do with the heart than the head." I believe that the Giulia and Stelvio are modern-day works of art and a testament to the engineering prowess of Alfa Romeo as a brand. I truly hope that Alfa Romeo continues in this direction and that we continue to see innovations like these in the newer generation of vehicles they have yet to offer.